Hello, Jim here. Today I want to talk about how selling options can have a profound impact on your ability to retire sooner and with a lot more. It's almost like a paycheck. You can potentially earn an amazing paycheck during your retirement, which will give you the advantage of retiring sooner as well as with a lot more money. I'll share with you the impact of not just the options premium, but also interest, dividends, and then Social Security, even RMDs, and how they might impact your retirement. So stay tuned. I think it's going to be well worth your while. Okay, now at the very end of this video, I'm going to share my September budget worksheet. This shows not just my budget, but also my income, what I'm projecting to bring in relation to premium as well as dividends and interest. It kind of gives you a bird's eye view. And this time I'm going to use my actual numbers. It'll show you what I have in my different accounts. So that'll be at the very end of the video. So one of the beautiful things related to selling options or trading options in general is you can have several income streams. I look at my covered calls as one income stream. So whatever stocks you currently own, I always tell people look at it like doubling your dividends. So if you have dividend paying stocks like Coca-Cola pays a 3% dividend, selling covered calls on it, you can potentially double those dividends. So you're making not 3%, but 6% on those particular shares that you might own. And you can do that on almost any company. You've got Procter and Gamble, you've got Southern Company, you've got Georgia Pacific, you've got, all sorts of different companies, as well as ETFs. You can do that on SPY, pretty much on any type of ETF. There's a few that you might not be able to do it on, but it's another way of bringing in some good income. And that's how I first got started. I started selling covered calls probably 15, 16 years ago. Then I got into selling cash secured puts. I started in just one account, tried to learn what I was doing. So you can look at that as another income stream. So I later changed that to doing mostly vertical put credit spreads and then other strategies like iron condors. But I look at that as a separate income stream from my covered calls. So suddenly I have two income streams from puts and calls. Then, you have dividends, and I've always been a dividend investor. So again, another good avenue to bring income in. And if you pick companies that grow those dividends, like Coca-Cola has been growing its dividends going back 60 years. Some companies like Best Buy are growing dividends at a crazy pace. Best Buy has like a 5% dividend. And I think they're doubling their dividend every 3 to 4 years. So that can also be a substantial area for bringing in income. And to me, that's the most passive type of income you can have, which is dividend-based income. And then finally, I guess about a year and a half ago, I moved my retirement accounts over to Fidelity. I had my 401k. I rolled it from the 401k to IRA so I could trade options. I could make these higher returns. But then I could also earn interest whenever I was selling a cash secured put or a vertical put credit spread. That cash that I have in my account, I earn about 4% on. So again, another income stream. The interest can be pretty substantial. I have around 160,000 between my IRA and my Roth, and I earn that 4%. And on a monthly basis, it's quite a bit of income. It ends up being a good, substantial, another income stream. And then, you can also look at other things. When, I turned 59 and a half, now I can actually access my IRA and my Roths. I haven't yet. I'm continuing to put the money back in and sell more options and buy more stocks and grow those accounts pretty quickly. But I could take the income out if I needed it. I plan to do that if I need more income. I'm still working, but when I do stop working, I might start pulling income out of that. I plan to retire at 67, and that'll be my full retirement age. I'll earn another $3,000 on a monthly basis just from Social Security. I actually pulled down my Social Security report, and that's what it showed. I'd make about $3,000 a month. By that time, when I'm 67, which would be about 8 years from now, with COLA increases, it'll probably be closer to 3,500, maybe even 3,800. So plan to, deal with that too, so if I have the Social Security coming in, I don't plan to work full time at that time. Not that I'm working full time now. I work in a very part time basis. Other than the fact that I'm doing these YouTube videos and trying to teach people my way of investing and trading. But it's definitely, I talk about it as different phases of retirement. So I look at the first phase is before you hit 59 and a half. Then phase two is when you're 59 and a half to 67. That's that time period where at the beginning of it, you also have to deal with health care. I've done a number of different types of healthcare. If you have questions about what I'm doing healthcare wise, leave a comment. And then once you're at 65, you do get Medicare. And then at 67, when Social Security comes, then that's another phase. And I look at that is kind of like the third phase. So from 67 to 75, 75 is the age I would have to take RMDs. And then once I have to start taking RMDs, I again will change my habits and the way I deal with my income. Once I hit that 75, I'll have required minimum distributions. It is based on your age. It isn't until you pass that along to your children, meaning it's a non-spousal inheritance, that they have to do the 10-year program, meaning or a 10-year basis. So for you, if you have to take RMDs at 75, it's based on your age and your life expectancy. But when your ancestors or your children inherit your accounts, they have to take it in 10 years. So they have to take like 10% every year. So that also has a major basis on that last phase of retirement and how I'm going to do it. Now, the other thing I look at is things like the 4% rule. If I needed to bring more out or take more, then I will look at using something like the 4% rule. Now, I might decide, well, I only need 1 or 2%. So I might do 1 or 2%, or I might decide when I need some money, that's when I take it out. Now, a lot of people, and you don't hear this from the finance industry, they tell you that people are dying and don't have enough money when they die, or they're running out of money in their late 70s, early 80s. I've heard the opposite with a lot of the people I talk to, and even a lot of my members, they're leaving huge sums to their children. One thing that I want people to understand is to live your life, enjoy your life as you're younger too. So when you're in your early phases of retirement, before you hit 59 and a half, and then when you're in your early 60s, you're more able to travel, you're more able to spend some money. So don't be so fearful that you're not going to have enough money for a good retirement. Get out, have fun, travel, do the things you really want to do. Because again, with using options, with dividends, interest, all these different avenues or income streams, you're going to have plenty of income and your portfolio is going to grow pretty rapidly. In my previous retirement related video that I did about a month ago, I showed what that can look like. And, if you're retiring with $1 million, that could turn into 2 or 3 million that you're leaving for your children. So take more out, do more traveling, visit your family, visit your friends, look at some other hobbies that you can do. I like to read, I walk the dog, I play tennis. I want to get back into golf. I have some vision issues that I'm looking at taking care of, but find more things to keep you busy and keep you happy. I've also done volunteer work. I'll probably do more volunteer work. And I really like this channel and sharing with people, how to retire, how to prepare for retirement, how to trade options. Again, I tell many of my members that I'm an investor first. I started as an income investor, then I picked up trading options. So I'm first an income investor, then I'm a trader. To me, it's extra icing on the cake. So I really enjoyed doing this and teaching people and helping people. If you're curious about my memberships, details will be in the description. I don't put you through any crazy phone calls. People can join 1 month, leave the next month. They can go from one level to another level. They can, join the elite program for a month, then switch to the trader level. I want to keep it as simple and as affordable as it can possibly be for people. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's fairly easy to make the decision. Some of the other YouTubers will try to force you into big, $4,000 or $5,000 type year systems. Month to month, it's again very affordable. So take a look. It may be worth your while. Details will be in the description, or you can reach out to me if you have questions. I do get a lot of people asking me questions. So next, let's actually talk about the realistic budget. I'll share with you the actual numbers, some of the things that have increased quite a bit recently for me. So stay tuned. I think the next section will be even more interesting for you. Okay, now I've opened up my retirement budget and income spreadsheet. On the left side here, I've actually got my budget and my expenses. I update this probably every quarter. And you can see these are all my different expenses. Some are very typical. You've got association dues for my homeowner or for my home. I've got homeowners insurance. And the reason these are red is my homeowners insurance has probably gone up it's been one of the accounts that's gone up the most. So it's currently $2,220 on a yearly basis. My real estate taxes have gone way up. I'm guessing this is what's happening with most people, but it's literally it's 5,600, 5,640 on a yearly basis, which is 470 on a monthly basis. So those two expenses, almost all my insurance is the one thing that seems to have gone up the most. I've heard horror stories with Georgia. I think Georgia has some of the highest car insurance. Internet access seems to have gone up quite a bit too. It's currently I'm paying $89 for AT&T, and that's just for the internet access. It is fiber. I do get a really good connection. Everything else hasn't really changed. It stayed about the same. Utilities maybe have gone up a little bit, but not much. The 200 for car insurance this should probably be red, but the reason I marked it in green, at this one point I was paying for my son's car insurance, and him being in it, a 21-year-old or 22-year-old, it's pretty pricey. But recently my car insurance did go up. Some of the other stuff that's gone up is the mortgage and credit union lease. So to help with my barn dough, I'm using a HELOC, and I am putting some on the HELOC, and that's why the payment has gone up quite a bit, over 2,025 on a monthly basis. At some point, my son will take that over, the barn dough. Once this business is up and running, he should be able to make that payment. He'll open up his own HELOC. I'll pay mine down, and he'll take over that payment down the road. Some of the others, food and groceries, 500, 200 for entertainment, and this fluctuates. Some months maybe a lot higher, other months maybe a little bit lower. Here you can see 200 for restaurants. That's probably low. I might need to increase that to like 300. And then a few other expenses, travel. I haven't done much travel with the barn dough being built. I haven't had much of a chance to travel, but we're getting there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get CO maybe late fall, early winter or something like that. At least that's my hope. Disability insurance, I have that in blue. At some point that'll go away. I believe it definitely is 65, but I think mine might end around 62. So I'm superstitious, so I've left that in place. I actually started that disability insurance before we were adopting my son, and I think I started it the year before. So literally 23 years I've been paying the same amount for disability insurance. Medical, doctor, the health insurance, 253, that'll probably go up. Right now, again, if you're curious about the insurance, I'm on a Obama plan. What happens is if you make too much, you just pay the difference back to the government, and it's worked out okay. They did pay for some stuff that I had done recently. I had a physical. My blood pressure was high, so I got put on blood pressure medicine. So I've been happy with them. Could it be better? Definitely could be better. And I might look at doing a better plan next year. I think I'm on one of the bronze plans or something like that. Disability, we already talked about. Dental, and that's mainly because I had some dental work. I actually had dental surgery recently, so that's why that's a little bit more. But overall, 6,793 is what I have going on right now monthly. Now on the right side, this is where the magic happens. This is where it makes this spreadsheet a little bit different. Here's my different accounts, my brokerage account, and this is what I also use for my emergency. So I have around 510,000 in this account. Then I have my Fidelity IRA, about 511, and these are as of yesterday. So this is pretty accurate. My Fidelity Roth is 72. And I'll probably do some Roth conversions. I always get those questions. Here's the different cash. I've got only 30,000 in my taxable. Now that's lower compared to what I've had in the past. I am trying to cash flow some of the barn dough. So I probably have put 30,000 into the barn dough from my cash over the last 2 months. And I'll probably do another 30,000. So again, I'm trying to cash flow as much of it as I can. But then I've got 156,000 in cash between my IRA and my Roth, which is like, I think 27, 28%. At times it's as high as 30. And then I have in my IRA and Roth, the dividends. And then I show details here. Schwab interest, this is what I'm earning. I do put excess cash into SWVXX and I'll earn like I think it's 4%. And what's not in SWVV, it just earns 0.45%. But this is interesting. If we do get a half a point, I think we're going to get a quarter point cut next week. But if we get a half point and get maybe 2 more cuts, we may drop by a whole percent. So it's 3%. Trump wants it between 1 and 2. So this benefit from Fidelity won't be there, 0.45% compared to 1 or 2%. Well, once it gets below the level of dividends, then I prefer to earn dividends than worry about the interest. So I've told people before, I've been happy with Fidelity. I like Schwab's functionality better. I might move my money back from Fidelity to Schwab if those rates really go down. It's something I would consider. I don't know for sure that I would do it. Now, if you're looking at moving your money between different accounts, like what I just described, be sure to always talk to whoever you're going to and see if they have special offers. When I went to Fidelity, I think they offered some cash depending on how much you brought over. And it's always worth asking. I know Fidelity does it. I believe Schwab might also do it too, but you have to catch them at the right time. So here, Schwab interest, about 100, then Schwab dividends, about 1153, and that's brought right from my statements. That's on the monthly average when you look at income. For Schwab, that's what I'm bringing in. And then Schwab premiums, this is based, and it's pretty right on track. I don't make or bring in as much premium because it's mostly covered calls. I'm beginning to do more puts in there, but I've been making, and I pulled this directly from my last 2 monthly statements, about 0.4% for premium, which equates to about 1,700. And that's pretty accurate if you look at my monthly review that I did, I think 2 weeks ago. And then Fidelity interest, this is where it's the 4.15%. And I make around 539 a month, so moving that money over there plus converting the 401k has allowed me to earn that kind of interest on a monthly basis. Then the Fidelity IRA, I do most of my puts and vertical put credit spreads within that. And that's like 1%. And it can be a little bit more. It might be at times 1.4 or 0.8. But on average, it's about 1% in that account. So I'm making like 51.10 on that. And I share in pretty much all my videos that I try to make 8,000 every month. I've been able to do that all but 1 month this year. My average, I think, is like 8,200. If you don't look at this month, I am beyond 4,000 for this month, and we're halfway through this month. Come a week from, well, not a week from today, but after tomorrow and then the weekend, so this is the second week. I try to make 2,000 every week. So this is pretty right on top of things. And then my fidelity, I average like 2%, but I have months that are 4%. I have months that are 1%. So but on average, again, it's 2%. I could potentially do a little bit higher, but this is pretty accurate. So 1440. And then Fidelity dividends is around 423. And this may be a little bit low. I probably should up that. But if you add all these together, it's 10,469.25 that I'm bringing in. Now, remember, that's not hitting my bottom line. I'm not spending that every month. These are getting reinvested to grow these accounts. Like to give you for instance, I think last year, I believe my IRA was like right at 430, I believe. And then my Fidelity IRA was like 55, maybe 60. I've been beating over the last year, I've been beating the S&P 500 in both those accounts. And then if you look year to date, it's even a bigger beat. And in my Roth, I've been beating the S&P 500 over the last year, like 3 or 4%. Now, if I didn't have covered call, I talk about it as clipping your wings, meaning you sell a covered call and then the stock shoots up. If I hadn't had some of those positions where I'm missing out on the upside, my return probably would be 3 to 4% higher in both those accounts. So instead of beating the S&P 500 by 1 or 2%, it might be 4, 5, 6%. In my Schwab account, I have not beaten the S&P 500, but that's primarily because it's mostly invested. And it's mostly dividend stocks, and I don't have much of the growth companies. Other than the exception, I do have Home Depot, and I have a few. I think I have a little bit of Adobe and some others that I don't quite have 100 shares that I'm not actually selling covered calls with. Now, if I needed to bring in more income, I could look at part-time work. So I haven't showed my part-time work here because it fluctuates. I'm doing software development. I am making some on this channel. But I could also do the 4% rule. So, if you are 67 and you don't quite have enough, you could manipulate the 4% rule, like maybe do a 2% rule, or maybe just bring out or pull out what you need on a quarterly basis to cover the expenses for those 3 months. So, and that ends up being 10,460. But again, remember, all these are being reinvested in my retirement accounts. But if I was pulling it all out, and I could pull it all out if I wanted to, with my budget at 6,793, I'm in the green 3,675. And then, that would carry on from 267. And then at 67, I'm just adding here the 3,000 for my monthly Social Security payment. And again, I pulled down the statement recently, and that's what it was showing. So I'd go to as high as 13,469. Now, I probably, even though I could pull out all this cash, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably, since I would be taking Social Security at the time, I would probably bring out another 3,000 or 4,000 on a monthly basis just to cover the expenses and to be sure that I'm, like I said earlier, enjoying life, doing the things I want to do, travel, playing tennis, playing golf, reading, maybe some other hobbies, getting together with friends, being involved with the church and stuff like that. The more you do, the better, and I think the happier you'll be. Now, the important notes here: high mortgage and HELOC due to barn build, and rate cuts could have a significant impact. I mean, I believe my HELOC is at 6.25, so we get a half point cut, that's going to be down to 5.75 or even lower. Need to utilize cash better, borrow from business. So I ended up with quite a bit of cash in the business. I don't put anything that I earn from, in my business, including YouTube or even my memberships, back into my investing. So what you see, and you kind of know that because in my IRA and my Roth, you can't easily put more money in. And I actually haven't been funding them, but I'm thinking I'm going to probably start funding them and putting a little bit more cash in them. Disability insurance ending soon, so that'll be like an extra 100. I believe it was 135 on a monthly basis, so that would be good. Can pull more out until Social Security kicks in. So once you start taking Social Security, if you make too much, you have to kind of pay it back. You end up getting it back at a later date. It's fairly confusing, but there is an argument. That's part of the reason I want to delay it till 67. Now, the exception, I've talked about that before, or this before, is if my health goes to hell. I'm a long-term cancer survivor, over 35 years. If you're also a cancer survivor, you can relate. But any ache or pain, we sometimes get fearful and we think, oh man, cancer's back or this or that. And, over the years, I've had myself checked at different times. Even recently, I had blood work checked for my PSA to be sure prostate cancer wasn't an issue. But it just, a little bit of fear kicks in. But if I do have a health issue, then I'll take it right away, especially if I'm already 62. I would just go ahead and fill everything out and take it. But if my health remains good, my goal is probably 67. I doubt I'll wait past that. Delaying Social Security allows you to make more each year, and that's what I was just talking about. What you can earn is higher. You actually spend less in retirement. So the investment community, and in a way, the government wants you to think that you're going to spend more in retirement, but it's very evident people spend less. And the older you get, you'll spend a lot less in your 70s compared to your 60s. When you hit your 80s, it's even more so. My dad just turned 86, literally yesterday, and he's still doing quite a bit. He's still working in his business, from home, but he's definitely doing a lot less. He doesn't really want to travel. I invited him out here and he's like, no, why don't you come see me? So at 86, I can't really argue with that. And then RMD is based on your lifespan. So for me, I have to take it at 75, but I use a calculation based on my lifespan, and it isn't a huge amount that I would have to take on a monthly basis, but RMDs kick in at 75. Now, one thing, ChatGPT and Gemini do a wonderful job, so you can ask questions with it related to your RMDs and your account sizes, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to take out. In a lot of ways, you don't need a financial planner to answer those kind of questions. Gemini and ChatGPT do a wonderful job with it. I actually threw that in there, and I think it showed I was get like 1,800. I'd have to take out 1,800 on a monthly basis or something. I don't remember exactly, but that's what I wanted to share with you guys. If I wasn't doing premiums from options, then a lot of the big numbers wouldn't exist. And every month in and out, I tell people I do 1 or 2 trades a day. I try to do 2,000 in premium every week. Every month, 8,000. And I'll revisit my goals. I may up them. I might say, well, I want to try to do 9,000, probably in October or November. But it's amazing how much extra income it brings in. And you can do it in a less risky way. Compared to a lot of other people who do what I do, I talk about a lot of different companies. It's not the same ones. It seems like lots of YouTubers will talk about SoFi. It's always SoFi and Palantir, and maybe a little bit of NVIDIA and a little bit of AMD. I'm all over the place. I'll have Procter & Gamble. I'll have Johnson & Johnson. I'll have Mora. I'll have AMD and NVIDIA. I'll talk about probably a good 30 or 40 different stocks. So let me know what you guys think. What are you doing for retirement? Are you doing something similar to this, or have you even thought about retirement? Are you just working? But, let me know what you think. Leave a comment. And as always, just want to take a minute and thank you for taking the time to watch, and hope you have a wonderful day.